Minister, the problem is that there is a huge contradiction between the report of the Comptroller and Auditor General and the report of the Garda into the penalty points issue. The Comptroller found 600 repeat offenders with 3 or 4 terminations. The Garda report found a few. The Comptroller found 3,000 statute-barred point cases. There was no mention in the Garda report. Thousands of fixed penalty notices went missing and were unaccounted for, according to the Comptroller. There is no mention in the Garda report. The Comptroller said that large volumes of notices were terminated by Gardaí from outside their areas. The Garda report said 3. The Comptroller said the thousands of notices, cancellation, contravened the rules and regulations, and the Garda report said 600. And finally, the Comptroller said €1.2 million lost. The Garda report said a few thousand. Can you explain? Isn't it a case that the whistleblowers are exonerated as truthful and honest in the light of this revelation? And one person has left, another member subject to sanctions. Will you see that justice now prevails here? Finally, another victim of the traffic penalty points debacle, Gemma O'Doherty, a leading investigative journalist with independent newspapers, was sacked because she uncovered a story that the Garda Commissioner was the beneficiary of cancellation of penalty points. And according to the Irish Post, the editor of the Independent who sacked her was also a beneficiary of cancellation. Isn't that outrageous, and doesn't it smack, Minister, of a grotesque abuse of power?
Thanks,
and will
Deputy.
you speak out on this also?
Thanks, Deputy. And the Minister to respond. 4 minutes, Minister.
May just respond to both deputies, but on the last issue that the deputy who last spoke raised, I'm not privy to the background circumstances to anyone terminating their employment with independent newspapers, and I'm certainly not going to comment in any way on that. Ciarán, I'm glad of this opportunity to comment on the findings of the Comptroller and Auditor General's report on the Garda fixed charge processing system. I welcome these findings because they confirm what went wrong with the system and what needed to be fixed. Broadly speaking, the findings in fact echo the findings of the examination of the same allegations which was carried out by Assistant Garda Commissioner John O'Mahony. I published Assistant Commissioner O'Mahony's report and also a related report by the Garda Professional Standards Unit earlier this year and referred them to the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Justice, Defence and Equality. Perhaps the key point is that the O'Mahony report broadly identified the same key issues of concern relating to the operation of the fixed charge processing system identified with the CNAG, namely a failure to follow cancellation procedures in a significant number of cases, a lack of adequate record keeping, and an inconsistency and in many cases a laxity in accepting justifications for speeding and other road traffic offences. Indeed, I previously have referenced some of the explanations accepted as exotic. There is absolutely no doubt that the findings of the CNAG reinforce both the concerns identified by the O'Mahony report about weaknesses in the fixed charge notice system and the case for corrective action, and action has been taken. Disciplinary proceedings were taken against a number of members of An Garda Síochána. A number of others were advised of the absolute necessity to follow correct procedures. A new Garda directive, cancellation of fixed charge notices, was issued to the entire force on the 30th of August 2013, aimed at significantly tightening up on procedures for cancellation. The Garda Commissioner has accepted and will implement specific and helpful recommendations by the CNAG on improving the fixed charge notice system and how it interacts with the court service and the driver licensing system. In addition, as I previously indicated, I referred the 2 Garda reports to the Independent Garda Inspectorate for its advice on any further measures which may be required. I expect to receive a report from the Inspectorate in the near future. I welcome the action taken by the Commissioner and his commitment to implement the further recommendations we are addressing this evening. The result will be a fixed charge notice system which is more open and transparent and more robustly operated. This is essential if public confidence in the system and the enforcement of road traffic law is to be maintained. The Garda Síochána, along with the Road Safety Authority and other stakeholders, have done so much in recent years to improve road safety and reduce fatalities. Everything must be done to maintain that progress. The Garda Commissioner has my full support in the strong action he is taking. It is only fair to acknowledge that these reports and their findings and recommendations are in response to allegations of improper cancellation of fixed charge notices. But any fair assessment must also conclude on the evidence available that a great many of the most serious allegations have been found to be utterly without basis, including allegations of avoidable road fatalities linked to speeding drivers being improperly let off fixed charge notices, and allegations of hundreds of pulse records being destroyed. Perhaps most significantly, the member of the Garda Síochána making the allegations rejects all of the findings of the O'Mahony report and continues to claim that there has been widespread corruption and criminality on the part of senior members of the Garda Síochána. These are exceptionally serious allegations which the O'Mahony report found no basis in fact. My department has written to the member concerned, urging him to come forward with any evidence he may have to justify these allegations. And indeed, it is open to the member concerned to make an appropriate presentation, if he chooses to do so, to the Joint Oireachtas Justice Committee, but in fact that has not yet occurred. In conclusion, I welcome the finding of the Comptroller and Auditor General. The findings are in line with the findings of the report by Assistant Commissioner O'Mahony published earlier this year. I fully support the Garda Commissioner and the decisive action he is taking on foot of them, and I will do my best to ensure that any further coordination required between Garda Síochána and the court services to ensure the efficient enforcement of summonses in the area of traffic offences does take place, and that issues that should be properly addressed when they come before the courts, that the courts have available to them all of the documentation and information they require. It's of course not available to me. Indeed, it would be highly inappropriate for me to in any way interfere with the independent approach taken by the courts or by, in particular, district judges in any individual cases that come before them with regard to any charges brought
Thank you, Minister.
that relate
I can come
to
back
road
to you in a
traffic
moment.
offences.
Deputy Knox, we have just 1 minute, I'm afraid.
Minister, I'm sure you'll accept that the 71% of citizens who accepted the fine and took the penalty points on the chin will be appalled to know that up to 1 in 5 managed to get away with this, and that is clearly down to, in terms of the scale of it, which you did talk down at one stage, a massive scale of it is clearly maladministration. But there are cases that will cause serious concern. There are allegations, as you know, about judges repeatedly having points written off, serving Gardaí, state solicitors, and recently we've been informed that senior journalists have had penalty points written off who work to hold Gardaí to account. We have the allegation that the journalist Gemma O'Doherty, and it's an allegation that she lost her job because of the work she was doing around all of this area. Are you concerned, Minister, and will you investigate the reason why at least 2 senior journalists in the publication mentioned in the Guardian newspaper, covered in the Irish Post newspaper,
Deputy, your time is up now.
that senior journalists at that newspaper, INM, had penalty points written off? Will you investigate those circumstances to see were they genuine? And they may well have been genuine reasons.
Thanks,
but the
Deputy,
public have a right to know, because in the interest of democracy, we need to know the answers. There have been.
Deputy,
I'll wrap up with this, and thank you, Chairman, for your appreciation of this. It is critical for public confidence to be restored that overall there was huge maladministration, but there clearly were cases where people who were very powerful and connected had points written off because of who they knew. That is totally wrong, and you should undertake to investigate the circumstances where people would not hold Gardaí to account by getting points written off. Examine that.
Deputy Higgins, you have a minute.
Minister, all that is demanded is that any of us who have incurred penalty points are treated in the same way, whether you're a public figure or a private citizen or anybody else. Now, Minister, you said that the conclusions of the Comptroller are in line with the findings of the report by the Assistant Commissioner O'Mahony. Clearly that is not the case, Minister, and that is easily documented. So I invite you to get your department to go through to the fine-tooth comb to revise your view on that. You do say it is only fair to acknowledge that these reports and their findings and recommendations are in response to allegation by whistleblowers, my word. Minister, I want you to go the extra mile. Be generous here. OK, maybe they didn't get everything absolutely right, but the vast substance of what they said has proved to be absolutely honest and true. And they have been victimised.
Deputy, if you just
and you have to stand up and champion the right of people in vulnerable positions to come out for the public good. So I'm asking you to do that today and
Thank
to
you.
apologise for wrong comments you made yourself castigating these
Thank you, Deputy.
people.